This is going to be a reading wrap up for March and April, and I have 12 books to talk about today. Starting off with fiction, I read Burn Down Master's House. This book follows 4 stories in the midst of the Civil War. Each story follows a different character, but they are all connected some way, but they have different plots. Their journeys of rebellion and kinship unite them in a long-seething need for justice. In an ultimate act of revolution, they will get it. I liked how this book was broken up into the different stories and how they all connected in the end was very clever. I didn't know this book was going to be set up this way until I got more into the story. I wrote, while each story was hard to get through due to the subject matter, each part ended in a hopeful and persevering manner, which I enjoyed. I want to say I gave this book 4 stars. Yeah, I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Next up is romance. I reread 4 Ali Hazelwood books, and I made a whole video about it, so if you really care to know my thoughts on each book, I talk about them more in that video, but I will give you the ratings. I gave The Love Hypothesis 3 stars, and oh wait, I'll put my rating system on the screen because sometimes people see 3 stars and they take that as a bad rating. 3 stars for me is a good book, so I gave this one 3 stars. I gave Love Theoretically 3 stars. I gave Not in Love 3.75 stars and Check and Mate 4 stars. Good experience rereading all of these. And we just got a teaser for the Love Hypothesis movie that's coming out. So I'm excited. Now that I've got a refresher, I'm excited for that movie. The next romance book is Where the Wildflowers Grow. It starts with our main character on a prison transport bus, and she is being taken to a new location. That bus gets in an accident and flips over, and she is the only survivor. So she makes a run for it, and while she's on the run, she ends up at this flower farm and meets the owner. I had high expectations for this book because the description just sounded so good, but I was let down by this one, unfortunately. The setup for this book was so intriguing. Like, she's on the run. She's escaped from prison. I thought this book was going to have a bit more excitement to it, but it felt kind of flat to me. Like, I expected to be on the edge of my seat the whole time I was reading this book, but it didn't feel like the stakes were high given the situation. Like, our main character is in this crazy situation, but I never felt like any sort of anxiety while reading this book, and I kind of wish I did. I actually like the main character's backstory. I found her way more interesting than the romance part of this book. That's another part that fell flat for me. The male main character, Jackson, was quite dull to me. It never felt like a true human man that would talk to her. You would just have to read some of his responses to things to understand what I mean by that. And on top of that, the ending was anticlimactic. So I didn't really like it. I didn't like this book. I gave this book 2.75 stars. It was just okay. The next romance book is No Matter What. After a traumatic accident, Roz and Vin try to rebuild their connection and find their way back to each other and themselves. The main issue I have with this book was the miscommunication. It was just too much. The rating for this book is getting lower and lower as more people read it too, so I kind of feel vindicated that it was ridiculous. It just sucks because the last book I read from her, Promise Me Sunshine, I really enjoyed, and this one was not so great. I did find some parts of this to be very sweet, but the communication aspect of it ruined it for me. I gave this 2.75 stars. The last romance book I read these past few months was Into the Blue. I gave this book 5 stars, my first 5-star this year, and I don't really give them out, so I anticipate that it will be my last one. This is a second chance romance book that follows AJ and Noah. They meet when they're younger and they form a strong connection, but one day Noah disappears and years later they meet again on the set of a TV show. This book was so good, and I keep saying more people read it and agree. This was a fantastic read. It has angst, the story is well crafted, and the romance was everything I wanted. So next category, I read one memoir. I read the book Strangers. This is about a woman that tells her story of her 20-year-long marriage that ends abruptly. The man that she was married to has an affair, and then he decides that he no longer wants to deal with anything. So he leaves her to deal with the kids. He's like, the kids can call me and text me and like, maybe we'll have dinner sometimes. And then he just leaves. Oh my God. So it's about the ending of her marriage, but it also talks about how much she gave up in this marriage, like to please the person that she was with. She became like a shell of herself. She always put his needs above her, and she didn't protect herself in this marriage. It's like a cautionary tale to not put yourself in a situation like this, to always protect yourself, even if you're in a partnership that you really think could not possibly end badly. You never know. I thought this was a good book. I don't rate memoirs, but I do recommend reading this book. The next category is fantasy. I read Mistborn. It was my first Brandon Sanderson book. This is an epic fantasy where two characters, Ben and Kelsier, work together to overthrow the government. That's like the simple way of describing this book. I was kind of expecting this book to blow me away a little bit. The way that people talk about Mistborn, it's like, this is the best fantasy book ever. Brandon Sanderson is the best author. So I really thought that I would get more out of this. And I'm not saying that it was bad. It was a good book, but that's just it. I thought it was good. So I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of confused on what about this book is like the end all be all. And maybe I need to just continue with I think there's 2 more books in this. Maybe at the end of that 3rd book, it really just rounds out so nicely. But I didn't finish this book and have like a huge urge to go into the 2nd one. They put this book as adult, but it really kind of just gives YA. Like a really good YA fantasy book. This is what Mistborn is to me. To be fair, this was published in 2006, so probably for the time, it was like really big. I don't know. It was good, not great, but maybe I need to continue with the saga to really get the full picture of it. We'll see. The last fantasy book I read was Release Me. This is the 2nd book in the Shatter Me series spinoff. I can't really say what happens in it because it would kind of be a spoiler, but just know I didn't like this book. I gave it 2.75 stars. I said this in the reading vlog where I read this book, but I am done with this author with the exception of the last This Woven Kingdom book. Since I've read all of the books in that series, I'm gonna finish it out because I've been with it for like years at this point. So I'm gonna read that last book and then I'm gonna leave this author's books alone. I was just not impressed by this, and the problems that I have with her writing keep coming up. So I'm gonna remove myself. I don't want to go into books kind of expecting disappointment, so I won't be reading this author anymore. I think I've just kind of grown out of it. And then for DNFs, I DNF'd 1 book at the 90% mark, which is ridiculous, but I was over it. This book follows 2 girls who bond over not having a mother. One girl's mother has passed away and the other has just left her, but that is what has tied them together. And this book takes us on each of their individual journeys as one goes off to college and the other goes on a search for her mom. My issue with this is that I really just couldn't connect with anything that was going on. I didn't like the plot. I didn't really like any of the characters. So I was left forcing myself to get through this because I didn't really like any of it. This author is very popular and beloved, so I really wanted to get it, but I didn't like this book at all. I'm not going to get up here and say it's a bad book because people are loving it and it could work for you, but it just didn't work for me. I did look up the ending because I want to know, how this book rounds out. Yeah, struggling to push through this entire book and then that's what I get at the end. I'm good. So that was my 1 DNF for March and April. That is all for this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, you can give it a thumbs up. And if you want, you can subscribe and I will see you in my next video.